This episode of the LCTV News is brought to you by Encompass Health, North Shore Community College, Leo Inc., Brotherhood Credit Union, and Deolis Brothers Construction.
Hello, I'm Dani Vittori, and this is the LCTV News. News this week favors grant announcements by the city and state, while videos balance the scales with the last of summer community events. On the Lowdown, we welcome the new CEO of ECCF to discuss their work in Lynn and how they are connecting nonprofits to greater funding opportunities. Here's the news for Friday, September 13th, 2024. An Essex County grand jury indicted 6 people in connection with the deadly drive-by shooting that killed 2 and injured 5 others in Lynn last September. Justin Alba, 25, of Peabody, and Lynn residents Darwin Batista, 20, Jefferson Valencio Cambar, 22, Carlos Ramirez Corniel, 16, Leonardo Espinoza, 15, and Abel Severino Reyes, 21, have each been charged with 2 counts of murder. Additionally, the 6 defendants were charged with 1 count of assault and battery with a deadly weapon, causing severe bodily injury, and 4 counts of assault and battery with a deadly weapon. As stated by Police Chief Christopher Reddy, quote, "The indictment of these 6 individuals represents a significant step in seeking justice for the victims in this case that deeply impacted our community," end quote. The 6 individuals will be arraigned in Superior Court at a date that has not yet been determined. The Healy-Driscoll administration announced Lynn Public Schools as one of 47 school districts in Massachusetts receiving more than $1.7 million in federal McKinley-Vento homelessness education grants. These grants will work to support more than 20,000 students statewide who have experienced homelessness by providing additional resources for family engagement, staff training, language services, and other needs. Grant awards ranged from $10,000 to $125,000, with Lynn receiving $85,000. This money will be focused on 3 main areas: engaging families to remove barriers for student attendance, regional liaisons providing technical assistance to students, as well as the homeless migrant student support, specifically helping the children of migrant agricultural workers. As stated by Secretary of Education and former Superintendent of Lynn Public Schools, Dr. Patrick Tutwiler, quote, "Students experiencing homelessness have the right to the same free public education as every other student in Massachusetts. I am grateful to the federal government for this grant funding that complements the state's efforts to provide local school districts with resources and supports to help children succeed and thrive, regardless of their immigration or housing status," end quote. This builds upon efforts by the city and the state to support all students in their district. LCTV covered another event funded by a Creative Cities grant, Thursday Poets at Gala. Totaling 4 sessions, 2 professional poets are invited to read their work before the floor is open to anyone in the crowd who wishes to share their words. This past week drew about a dozen people, captivated by the words of published poets and several amateurs.
No one makes our longings into a song, or into a flower, or sugar. It's simple, Simon. God cares for the loved ones.
I'm January O'Neill.
I'm Jennifer Martelli.
And this is the Thursday Poets Reading Series. We're at Gala Arts tonight. This is our home base. And we have been running the series this year for the first time.
Yeah.
This is our third event, and tonight we have Timothy Gager here.
So this month especially was important to me, and this is why we invited Timothy to read for us. This is National Recovery Month. So the poems tonight with our feature focused on recovery from fill in the blank. Anything from active addiction to heavy-duty feelings. And this is close to my heart because I've been in recovery for over 35 years.
Next year, we hope to run the series again. This has been sponsored by the Lynn Cultural Council, as well as Gala Arts
And the Last Mile.
and the Last Mile Fund. So we're really appreciative. We've had really good crowds. We encourage people to come out, and whether they are experienced poets or this is the first time coming to an event or reading, this event's for everybody, and we're so happy to do it in Lynn.
Yeah.
Standing firm in honesty and integrity regardless of others' acceptance or rejection. It means navigating through a world where some may seek to play with emotions, testing our resolve and inner strength.
And that is our superpower. Our identity is our art, imagination, and creation. We can do the impossible. We are impossible. Thank you.
At their most recent meeting, the City Council voted to allocate $7.8 million for the installation of a geothermal system in the new Pickering Middle School. It will be the first municipal building to have the system, which uses the earth rather than fossil fuels as a heating source for the building's water and temperature control. The project team, in collaboration with National Grid, conducted energy modeling on the building and presented an energy analysis, which led to a fossil fuel-free design. According to Lynn's Inspectional Services Department, while there is a cost associated with running the electrical pumping, the operational budget will ultimately be lower over the building's 50-year lifespan than if a traditional fossil fuel system was used. The $7 million invested is expected to be returned to the city through Mass Save Program rebates and federal incentives through the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act. In order to be eligible for these incentives, an apprenticeship element must be included, opening the door to teach the next generation about the trades and using resources responsibly. The City of Lynn recently conducted a parking study, and the results were compounded into a recommendation slideshow by the Planning Department. Based on several public meetings, surveys, roundtable discussions with stakeholders, and other pop-up events, recommendations were made and divided into 7 categories. These include extending or eliminating on-street parking time limits, providing free short-term parking, allocating additional ADA-friendly spots, updating parking violation lists, expanding parking permit programs, increasing the use of public lots, and allowing businesses to request loading spaces. The Planning Department also shared several videos explaining the process in greater detail. The Goldfish Pond Association held their 44th annual Fun and Flea Day the afternoon of the 7th. A staple event in the community for many years, residents could find a whole variety of items, including clothing, keychains, toys, shoes, and other homemade items. In addition to a duck raffle being held by the Goldfish Pond Association to raise money for other events they put on throughout the year.
The flea market was originally started in about 1980 as a fundraiser for the organization, and for a little over 30 years it pretty much provided the money we needed to do the work we do, which is maintaining the park, planting flowers on the island, keeping the grass cut, and basically trying to keep the pond in good shape. Since then we've developed other fundraising activities, but we continue this because it's such a great event for the neighborhood and for the city, and it's part of our tradition.
And how many vendors do you have now?
I believe we have a little over 50 today. have a good time. That's basically what a big part of it's all about. And of course for the vendors to make a little money to make it worth their afternoon. So.
If you remember, the last 2 years we've had a duck race. Labor intensive has caused this year to downgrade that to a duck raffle grab. So to make it honest and honorable, we have a guest. Sadie from the United Kingdom. At some point, place your arm in the pond and select a duck.
Here we go.
We have a duck winner for the first duck pull, number 44.
Mission basically is just to maintain the park. Back in the 60s and 70s, things started to deteriorate. The city didn't quite have the resources to keep it up, so the neighbors got involved. Our founder, Gerard Dewan, founded the organization twice. The first time in the 70s didn't quite take, so we came back around 1980, and after that it really took off and became quite successful.
Several officials were in Lynn this past week, including Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll, U.S. Representative Seth Moulton, State Senator Brendan Creighton, and Deputy Secretary of U.S. DOT Polly Trottenberg to discuss the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program. Of the $25 million being distributed throughout the Commonwealth, Lynn is receiving a chunk of $9.6. This funding will be used to reconstruct 4 high-crash, high-risk intersections within the city, having 5 years to implement it. Here's a clip from the press conference.
Safety is everybody's top priority, and we have safety issues on our roadways. We average 3 fatalities a year in a city of 100,000, and we are learning more and more about how we can take that principle that safety becomes first to more of our work, and particularly into the design of our roadways and the physical nature of our streets and sidewalks to make them safer. And this grant's going to allow us to do that, allow us to pursue evidence-driven, data-supported changes to these roadways to make them safer. The grant is going to allow us to make these fixes at just 17% of our streets, so 1 in 6 roughly. But those 17% of our streets represent 86% of our traffic fatalities.
When we think about how we partner to solve the really tough problems, whether that's Cape Cod bridges or Alston multimodal big mega projects or corridor improvements in communities, that's when government is at its best, working together to improve safety, quality of life, and be a driver for the economic growth we need in communities. So congratulations to the City of Lynn and to the other communities across Massachusetts who are receiving awards today. And really,
you drove through Lynn to get to Wonderland or to get to Boston, and the streets in Lynn worked very well for Marbleheaders who were just driving through. Inclusive streets mean they work for everybody, including the people who are walking on the streets, not driving. For decades in Massachusetts, we've designed roads for driving, which is great if you're just zooming through, but not if you live in neighborhoods like these. Lynn has been a pioneer in changing that, in making sure that its streets serve Lynners first, and all the rest of us second. That's the way that it should be.
Begun by Mayor Nicholson 3 years ago, Lynnside Out once again took over Frederick Douglass Park and the surrounding street. With such busy schedules, it can be hard to find the time to find resources, so the city decided to bring resources to the residents, as well as free food, entertainment, and activities for the whole family.
On behalf of the City of Lynn, welcome to the 3rd annual Lynnside Out. I am just so excited to see all of you here.
Everyone who's volunteering today, you can see there's some really fun kid activities over in the museum courtyard, a ton of great food, some amazing entertainers we're going to hear from in a minute. We have such a great team in the city of Lynn. All of our city departments, our city staff are so deeply committed to this community.
My name is Sierra Munoz, and I am a volunteer and a board member of Lynn Lab, which is a community biology pop-up STEM space and an organization that brings STEM into the community. So this is our second year coming to Lynnside Out. It is always just an amazing time because it combines literacy and art and community spaces and community organizations like ours. And so we have worked with the City of Lynn in a couple different ways. We've worked with Lynn Public Schools and the YMCA in Lynn to do some after-school programming, and we're just really happy to be one of the vendors here bringing science and bringing especially the local science. So we have, for example, we have plankton here today that were collected from the harbor, from the ocean just off the coast, right? And we can show people what's living and growing and swimming in the water that they play in.
Our residents have so much going on. It is a hard moment in time for everyone to make ends meet, and we know that it can be challenging just to be aware of the great organizations, the resources available, the services available. And so that's why we want to do this, to make sure that we're out here meeting folks where they are at, to let them know the services, the resources, and also to get your feedback. We have so much positive momentum here in the city. The buildings, the construction, the investments, they're all necessary, but they're meaningful when we know that it includes our residents. And days like today help us make sure we do that. So thank you all so much for being here.
On the goal line, the sports update. In the consolation game of the Volleyball City Tournament, host Lynn Tech took care of English 3-1, improving to 1-2 on the year. Leah Morales again led the way with 9 digs, 6 kills, 6 aces, and 2 blocks. While the Rams avenged last season's loss to St. Mary's, this year winning the state tournament with a 3-0 sweep. The second set was the standout, as the Spartans sprang out to an 18-9 lead, but the Rams chipped away to eventually win that set. Emma Cavalier earned tournament MVP, recording 20 assists, 3 kills, 9 digs, and 2 aces. The Rams preserved their perfect record of the young season, advancing to 5-0 after sweeping Medford 3-0 and besting Everett 3-1. Against Medford, the Rams combined for 7 aces on the day, in sharp contrast to the Mustangs, who scored no more than 17 points in any set. Amanda Hughes, Brooke Braswell, and Mia Pinto had standout performances against Everett, combining for 33 digs. In football, Glasgow fell to North Andover by a score of 48-14. The Rams only managed 22 yards of offense in the first quarter and were already down 21-0. Meanwhile, Tyler McDonald began his stint as head coach of the Bulldogs with a 28-14 victory over Lawrence. English grabbed 2 interceptions, while Xavier Beauchamp led the way on offense, running for 100 yards and 2 scores. The most tightly contested game came in a 13-12 final, spelling victory for the Spartans over Swampscott. It was a defensive battle as the Big Blues stopped St. Mary's twice inside the 5-yard line, and the Spartans recorded 4 takeaways. Tied 6-6 going into the fourth, both teams scored, but a penalty forced Swampscott to kick their PAT from the 35, which missed wide. Lynn also had their boys and girls city soccer tournaments over the weekend, both of which were captured by St. Mary's. For the second consecutive year, the boys hosted the trophy, winning 5-1 against Tech. Anthony Gomez got 2 goals and the MVP nod. For the girls, it was a 5-0 shutout and a 2-goal MVP performance by Sofia Skabikis In consolation games, it was classical over English, 1-0 for the boys, and a 3-2 Tech victory in girls. Moving back to regular play, the Tech boys hosted Northeast Metro, but fell again 2-0. They found themselves down 1-0 7 minutes into the game, with Metro scoring an insurance goal in the second half. The Tigers have several JV players on their roster, looking to fill open spots vacated by key players, so their roster remains fluid. While St. Mary's and Bishop Feehan battled to a 0-0 tie behind a brilliant performance by their goaltender. In the last month of the season, the Sox were finally able to win a series, taking 2 of 3 against division rival Baltimore Orioles. The Bats were hot in a 12-3 victory, which saw 7 Sox grab a hit. But most impressive was Rob Refsnyder and Tyler O'Neill launching back-to-back homers, twice, once in the third, then again in the 8th. They lost the middle game 5-3, but won dramatically in extra innings, also 5-3. O'Neill was the hero again, crushing a 3-run shot over the monster in the bottom of the 10th. The New England Patriots are back in action and won their season opener to begin the year 1-0 for the first time since 2021. Following Bill Belichick's departure in the offseason, former player Gerard Mayo took up the reins as head coach. Jacoby Brissett was the starting QB and is no stranger to the Patriot way, having played for them back in 2016. After bouncing around for the last several seasons, he is back with the team who drafted him, beginning this stint with a 16-10 victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. A 7.5-point underdog, the Patriots had cleaner execution and were more efficient on the ground, racking up 170 yards compared to the Bengals' 70. Down 7-0, it looked like Cincinnati was going to score, but a fumble on the 1-yard line led to a field goal and 10-0 lead for New England instead. The lone touchdown for the Pats came on a 5-yard run by Ramondre Stevenson in the second quarter. With this victory, Mayo becomes only the 5th coach in Pats history to win his first regular season game. The Essex County Community Foundation is driven by their goal to inspire philanthropy that improves the community by supporting nonprofits and leadership initiatives. Their new CEO joined us on the Lowdown to provide specific examples of how they elevate the many organizations in Lynn by helping build connections to each other and potential funding opportunities. Here is the Lowdown. Good morning and welcome back to the Lynn Lowdown. I'm Dani Vittori, and today we're welcoming on the CEO of the Essex County Community Foundation. Thanks for joining us today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So would you mind just introducing yourself and then a little bit about the organization as a whole?
Yeah, terrific. And thanks for having me, Dani. And I love to support Lynn TV and Community Access TV. It's such an important part of our community. And it's great for us at the Community Foundation to be able to support it. But my name is Stratton Lloyd. I'm the CEO of the Essex County Community Foundation. And the Essex County Community Foundation, or also known as ECCF, is a nonprofit organization focused on building community across the 34 towns and cities of Essex County. And what's interesting about us is that we are regionally oriented and we're focused on this specific place. So it's not necessarily issue specific, but it's place specific.
Right. And I have to ask, you just became CEO in July, so you're brand new to this role. How's that been going?
It's been a lot of fun, and I've been with the Community Foundation for over 6 years, so I feel very fortunate that I know the community really well, I know the organization really well, and we have just a tremendous team and a tremendous opportunity to do so much more in the community. And so literally every day, I am more excited about this role.
And one of the things you were even talking about before we came on is really encouraging collaboration between all the different organizations and groups that you work with. Can you explain that?
Yeah, well, so again, because we're a community foundation across a region, the 34 towns and cities, so that's everywhere from obviously Lynn and Salem and Peabody, but all the way up to Merrimack Valley with Lawrence, Haverhill, Methuen, and then the whole coastline of Newburyport and Cape Ann. So we're a very diverse county with towns and cities and rural and urban and all sorts of socioeconomic distinctions across the region. And so we also don't have any county government. in our region. So there's no one really thinking regionally, how can we work together to solve the biggest issues in our region? And to be honest, the biggest issues that we're facing right now as a country, as a state, and as a region require collaboration. And so we've really stepped into the role of saying, how can we be a neutral entity to inspire collaboration to tackle the biggest issues that the community is facing and what the community wants us to work on? We listen to the community very carefully.
Definitely. Seeing what you can learn from them and then doing it, because nobody knows it better than the people that live there.
Absolutely. And so, you know, a big example of that is coming out of COVID. And or in COVID and coming out of COVID. And we got together about 100 community leaders across the county, mayors, CEOs, nonprofit leaders, community leaders across the region. And we asked a simple question. We said, you know, how has this changed, you know, the social sector, the nonprofit sector forever? And what do we need to be aware of as a community? And the number one issue that came back, which actually was a little surprising to us, was that the digital divide is everywhere. Really? Digital equity is something that is super important. And so digital divide, you know, particularly during COVID, was impacting everybody, but it's always been there. It's always been an issue. And it impacts elderly, it impacts unemployment, it impacts education, impacts small businesses. And so we did a study with Tufts, gathered a bunch of data, identified a bunch of the different root causes and challenges around digital divide in our region, and then designed a 4-year, nearly $4 million commitment to breaking down some of the barriers of the digital divide and digital equity across the region, providing free access, free devices, and then also digital literacy training for residents across the county who can most benefit from it. And we've done a lot of that right here in Lynn, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, like you said, you do digital equity, economic workforce development. You're in so many different areas teaching people about it. And I have to ask, how do you balance between all of that? Because it's a big county and there's many things that you focus on.
Yeah, no, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of opportunity, you know, for folks here in our region to make sure that this is the best place for all of us to live, work, and play. And really for all of our community to benefit from that. And so we're constantly in conversation with the community, asking those questions, what are the big issues? And so issues such as workforce development opportunities, you know, to earn a living wage, for example, is a really big issue. Small business resiliency, how can we let our small businesses grow and thrive? And arts and culture and the creative economy, really building a sense of belonging and a sense of community across our region. Those are just some of the areas that we've really focused on. And we don't do the work. You know, we work with the nonprofits, we work with the community that's doing the work, that's already doing the good work, that we can help accelerate and amplify. But we can become a backbone organization to convene folks, to design a strategy, and then to work to implement that, to solve that. So the question is, how do we do it? Well, we work with a lot of really, really good partners. We work with hundreds and hundreds of partners. We work super closely with municipalities. Mayor Nicholson has been a tremendous partner of ours in a variety of different areas, even back to, you know, very early in some of our small business work, where I actually worked with him before he was mayor to help launch a small business loan fund for businesses here in Lynn. So there's a Lynn Small Business Loan Fund run by Mill Cities Community Investments right here in Lynn, and with the North Shore Latino Business Association as an example, to identify non-bankable businesses that can benefit from it. So we can play that backbone entity of working together and getting the organizations that are doing the work to help them really amplify and accelerate that work.
And you mentioned, Lynn, specifically, there's several organizations that you've worked with, Beyond Walls, then Music Foundation. Can you talk more about the work you've done here in the city?
That's awesome. So we've done a lot of work, again, in each of these different areas, whether it's small business, like I just talked about, workforce development, arts and culture, digital equity, vaccination work during COVID. We work with all of the organizations here in Lynn, and we are super inclusive, and we love to have partner and help to lift up the really tremendous leaders and entrepreneurs that you have here leading these organizations right here. We love to lift them up and give them opportunities. In arts and culture specifically, it's an area that we've launched a 10-year, $5 million commitment to build a creative economy ecosystem across the entire county. And we've done tremendous work across all towns and cities, but really focused on our 6 major cities, being Lynn, Salem, Beverly, Peabody, Methuen, Haverhill, and Lawrence as an example. But really here in Lynn, we've worked super close with the Lynn Museum, the Lynn Music Foundation, Raw Arts, Beyond Walls, all of the great arts and culture organizations right here to really help ensure that they can meet their mission, and then also to create opportunities for folks to work together and to break down some of those boundaries. And we actually fund collaboration because we want people to work together. A lot of times philanthropy and funding funds organizations independently, and then organizations work independently. So we're trying to flip that model and say, well, what if we fund you to work together? How would you do it differently? How would you think about things differently? And organizations love to collaborate, but they need to get paid to do it. So we try to give them the opportunity to do that.
And that's actually a great segue to, you mentioned you're going to be doing an art segment, summit later in September. Can you explain a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so again, we have this 10-year commitment to building an ecosystem. We've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of nonprofits, municipalities working together, doing this work all over the county, a lot of it here in Lynn. And so every 2 years we get together across all of those partners, and it's really a community celebration of the arts and culture ecosystem. And it's going to be September 27th at the Beverly Cabot Theater at 9 o'clock, and you can go to www.eccf.org and you can sign up and register for it. But it's a sort of a 6-hour event with local artists and dancers and singers and musicians, as well as experts in arts and culture across the region, talking about some of the collaborative work that's happening and talking about some of the opportunities across the state for arts and culture organizations to benefit from. Oh, wow. And so it's really a fun summit. It's really inspirational, and it really encapsulates that spirit of collaboration. And you just see it, you feel it, it's visceral. It's really fun to be at. So we really would love for everyone to come and participate, take a look at it, sign up, and come to it. We'd love to have you there.
Mm-hmm. And you're also going to be hitting 25 years this year as well.
So this is our 25th anniversary, which is really exciting. And for a community foundation, that's still pretty young. We've really, a lot of our growth has really come in the last 10 years as far as being more relevant to the community. But we've been around for 25 years. And so we want to stop and take a moment to appreciate and recognize that. And so we're going to be having a 25th anniversary, which we'd love for all of our partners and friends to come and join us on that event also. And that's going to be November 13th. And again, on our website, www.eccf.org, you can take a look at that and sign up and come to our 25th anniversary. It's really going to be a celebration of all of the great work that's happened over 25 years. And then most importantly, looking forward, asking ourselves, who do we want to be in the next 25 years? And what else can we be doing as a community, working together and building a greater sense of belonging and connectedness across our region so that we can all thrive.
You said you definitely have a lot to celebrate, and I do have to wrap up in a moment, but was there anything that I hadn't mentioned that you wanted to touch upon?
Yeah, I'll just say that as a community foundation, first of all, a lot of folks don't know who we are, so we love the opportunity to share that and build awareness because we are a critical philanthropic entity for a region, particularly a region without a county government and looking for opportunities to collaborate. And so we do a lot of this collaboration work that I talked about. But a second thing that we do, which is equally as important, is that we also manage charitable funds and we manage philanthropic funds. So if someone is thinking about being philanthropic, maybe creating a scholarship, maybe creating a giving fund or a donor advised fund, maybe you're a nonprofit leader and you have an endowment or a reserve and you're looking for who can manage and be the fiduciary for that fund, the Community Foundation is your resource for that. And so we definitely ask you to call us up. If there's any way that we can help you think strategically about your philanthropy, at whatever size of philanthropy you're thinking, we ask you to reach out and talk to us. We manage over 330 charitable funds like that right now. That's an important thing that we do for the community, and then we can connect them to the causes they care about and the collaboration that we're trying to do. So they're definitely very complementary, managing the funds and then also doing this great community work that we love to do.
Great. Listen, you definitely collaborate with so many great organizations and do so much good work yourself, and I want to thank you for coming on to share some of that with the community.
Well, we love Lynn. We love the community. I love personally working here and working with the great folks of Lynn. And any way that the Community Foundation can continue to be a resource for the community, that's our customer. That's our mission. So we love doing it. So thanks for having us on here, and we're happy to support you all too. And you are such an important element and entity in our community also.
Right. Well, thank you for that as well. And thank you again for joining us on the Lynn Lowdown. I'm Dani Vittori, and we'll see you next week with more guests. Up next, the community calendar. Park cleanups are back for the fall, running from September through November, the first of which will be tomorrow, the 14th, at Flax Pond Park. Running from 9 to 11 a.m., no registration is required, supplies are provided, and volunteering for cleanups can be applied to community service hours. The cleanup itself will be canceled in the event of rain. Representing years of work, the City of Lynn is holding a Pickering Middle School groundbreaking ceremony at 10 a.m. on the 20th. This is the first major milestone marking the beginning of construction on the new school. Language translation services can be requested in advance by contacting the project team. To learn more about the timeline and process, visit the Pickering Middle School project website. Next Saturday, the 21st, the Lynn Museum is hosting the 2024 Fall Family Festival and Fundraiser from noon to 4 p.m. in their courtyard. Tickets are $5 for individuals, $15 for a small group, 3 to 6 people, and $20 for a large group, 7 to 10 people. This outdoor event will feature free carnival games, crafts, touch-a-truck, youth-friendly museum tours, and raffle prizes for all ages. There will also be a beer garden for patrons 21 and up. The rain location is inside the museum. With that, we wrap up the news for this week. Follow along with all our updates, press releases, and information on upcoming events by visiting our website, lyntv.org. And hear about breaking news first, including announcements from the city, by following us on social media at Lynn Community Television. If you would prefer staff content, event coverage, and PSAs, head to Lynn Community Television on YouTube. I'm Dani Vittori, this is LCTV News, and we will see you next week.
This episode of the LCTV News is brought to you by Encompass Health, North Shore Community College, Leo Inc., Brotherhood Credit Union, and Daoulas Brothers Construction.